Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes rundown for Alien Covenant, Ridley Scott's newest installment in his seminal, I would argue, Alien series that kicked off way back in, I believe, 1970 something, with the horror film that started a whole franchise. He's back at the reins. He had most recently directed Prometheus, and I know some of y'all have tried to scrub that from your memories, arguably for good reason. I should admit here that I am not the biggest Alien franchise fan, and specifically, I'm not the biggest Ridley Scott with Aliens franchise fan. I'm a fan of Aliens, but Alien, even the original one, I understand the merit of that film, but it's a little slow for me. So that's where I'm coming from with this one. And I have to say, there's a couple of different ways you can judge this movie. Ridley Scott himself specifically said that he was looking to scare audiences. And if you're coming into this as a pure horror experience, I think that on that level it's going to be disappointing. And it's going to be disappointing not because of any particular technical thing that the movie does wrong, although it kind of paces itself really slow. It drags, but that's Ridley Scott, right? Like, especially Ridley Scott in Aliens, except for Prometheus, which got like so hectic that it was weird. Ridley Scott tends to take his time with these things, and so I get that I should have been expecting that, but for me, the pacing in this was so dull, and on top of that, the characters in this movie, for the most part, were completely undeveloped. In the original Alien, there was a sense that this whole crew was all these individuals, and they all mattered, and they all had an equal chance of making it out alive, and Ripley didn't survive so much by being, some kind of hardcore action hero as she did by keeping her head about her and being a little bit lucky, right? Not to be one of the first ones to get picked off. Here, they telegraph to you immediately. All right, here's our main characters. We've got like 15 people awake. Don't worry about them. You want to worry about Catherine Waterston, and you want to worry about Billy Crudup. And David Fassbender, obviously, because he's David Fassbender. But everybody else, don't worry. They're not important. Oh, and Danny McBride. He's important too. It's all the more frustrating because you've seen this in horror movies, right? You understand that there are cannon fodder characters that are just there to get killed off by the monster. But if you care about them before they get killed off by the monster, that makes the kill mean something. Whereas here, it's just sort of, well, yep, that guy had an alien bust out of his back. It's not a regular alien, it's a new kind of alien. But other than that, it's just a kill. I mean, if you're squeamish about blood, I guess you won't, you may be affected by it. But from a story perspective, those deaths don't mean anything because we don't know who any of those people are. And as I mentioned, it's more egregious even than your standard horror trope because this is specifically a ship full of couples, of husbands and wives who are going out to colonize a new world. People who are married to each other and have been, one assumes, for a reasonable amount of time, who've developed relationships over their lifetimes that have rapport with each other, and you know what? You don't see almost any of that. If you could completely remove that conceit from the film, and with just a little bit of editing, cut out any reference to the fact that these people are in any way related to each other. I mean, there are lines that reference it, okay? It's not like they never say, that's my wife. Watch out. Don't flirt with her while we're gone. They have those lines, but there's never a moment where the movie makes you feel something about the relationship these people have. So when a character's saying, I gotta go back to get my wife, do you like your wife? Are you guys on good terms? I mean, one would assume that yes, you were, but who is she? I don't even remember her face. You're just screaming about stuff, and And then there's violence happening, and it doesn't have any context. So that's disappointing. The other way that you might want to judge this film is as, let's call it a patch for Prometheus. There was a lot of stuff introduced in Prometheus that didn't make sense to fans of the Alien franchise. You had this whole weird diversion with the engineers, and they had some pods that had some kind of monster in them that was, I mean, it was similar to the Alien, but the Alien didn't actually show up in that film, and like, it felt like they were doing an origin story that didn't tell you anything about the origin. This movie does connect more of those dots. I'm not enough of a fan of the franchise to know if it connects all the dots, but having seen this movie, a lot more of where did the aliens come from and what's up with those engineer guys and all that stuff kind of at least makes sense from a story perspective. I don't know if it helps anything. I'm not going to go back to James Cameron's Aliens and watch them shooting them in the hallways and be like, man, I'm really glad I know now that that's where those guys came from. That totally changes my perception of this now. It's the stuff that they add in this movie to the alien mythos gives it an additional volume, but not an additional weight. It doesn't change the context of what we understand about the aliens. It doesn't make them more or less scary. It's just more information to put down on your sheet of things that you know about the alien. They try to go into some interesting philosophical territory. They ask a lot of questions about what it means to be a creator and what responsibility the creator has to their creation and what the responsibility the creation has to the creator. Those are theoretically interesting discussions to have, but they're mired down in a movie that is, from my perspective, fundamentally boring. If I could go to a philosophy class to discuss these and have more of an engaging experience than I did in this movie that had explosions and monsters and things running around. Because, and again, it all comes back to those characters. Those characters, even the ones that we get to know, are relatively shallow. The only exception to that, for me, was Billy Crudup. Billy Crudup's character plays the captain. He's thrust into the captain role at the beginning of the movie because the original captain of the Voyage dies in an accident. And he's got this inferiority complex. He's worried about making the wrong decision. And there is an element of that I enjoyed, but even that didn't get taken far enough. They still haven't fixed the stupid security protocols that everybody has in this universe. Literally every single one of these movies revolves around a catastrophic infection. Every one. But nobody has invented, like, good quarantine protocol, or maybe let's wear a helmet on this planet. Just because it has breathable air doesn't mean we should just walk around sucking in all their bacteria. Maybe that. It's less frustrating than Prometheus in that regard, okay? It does at least pace out that action a little bit more, but fundamentally those problems are still there. Overall, for me, Alien Covenant is going to have to be a pass. I saw it, I experienced it, I wasn't scared, I wasn't impressed, it didn't add anything to the mythos for me. It was just another overlong alien movie. And if I'm gonna watch an overlong alien movie, I'm gonna watch the good one, guys. If I'm gonna be bored, I'm gonna be bored by the classic and go back to the Alien original. I didn't need this. I don't know who did. Disappointing. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. If you have comments, leave them underneath the video. You know how to do that. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up. We always appreciate that. And I'll see you next week with another episode of the Human Echoes Rundown. Take care, guys.